So up to this point, we've talked about elasticity in the context of the demand curve. So this set of notes deals with the elasticity of supply. And the most common elasticity here is the price elasticity of supply. So the price elasticity of supply is how much the quantity supplied of a good responds to a 1% increase in the goods price. So, the price elasticity of supply is the percentage change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in the price. All elasticities look the same. Its value largely depends on the flexibility of sellers to change how much they produce. So just like we had different values of the price elasticity of demand, we have similar concepts here. So we say we have elastic supply when quantity supplies responds substantially to changes in price. We have sorry, 1 second. We have inelastic supply, where quantity supply relies only slightly to changes in price. And just like we had determinants of the elasticity of demand, the price elasticity of demand, we also have determinants of the price elasticity of supply. So, an important determinant of the price elasticity of supply is time period. Supply is more elastic in the long run. It's more responsive in the long run because sellers can change their production a lot easier in the long run. So over long periods of time, it's relatively easy for firms to change the quantity they produce, whereas in the short run, it might not be. So the computation of the price elasticity of supply is exactly the same as the computation of the price elasticity of demand. So, again, it is the percentage change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in the price of the good. This value is always going to be greater than zero. And that's because of the law of supply. So the law of supply, if you recall, says that everything else being the same, an increase in the price of the good leads to an increase in the quantity of the good supplied. So this is why the supply curve is upward sloping. And so any change in the price, any increase in the price will always lead to an increase in quantity supplied. We use, as we did before, the midpoint method. And the midpoint method uses 2 points on the supply curve, P1, rather, I'll do it this way, Q1, P1, and Q2, P2. And given that, the percentage change in quantity supplied is Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2. And the percentage change in price is P2 minus P1 divided by P2 plus P1 over 2. And so the price elasticity of supply is equal to the ratio of that mass. So it's Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2 over P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 over 2. Again, this looks like a mess, but it's not that difficult to compute. So let's do an example. So here's our supply curve from before and our demand curve. And we're going to take 2 points on this supply curve. So let's take these 2 points. So Q2, or rather, we have 2 points. We have 4 and 50 cents and 10 and $1. So this is Q1, that's P1, that's Q2, that's P2. So then let's do the percentage change in quantity supplied. So the percentage change in quantity supplied is equal to Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q2 plus Q1 over 2. And again, we know everything in this equation. So this is 10 minus 4 over 10 plus 4 over 2. Or 6 divided by 7. Or approximately, if you round, 0.86. The percent change in price is equal to P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 over 2, or $1 minus 50 cents over $1 plus 50 cents divided by 2, or 50 cents divided by 75 cents. So that is 2/3, or 0.66. Or rounding up, 0.67. So the price elasticity of supply in this case is 0.86 divided by 0.67, or if we throw that into a calculator, 0.86 divided by 0.67, 1.28. So this says that a 1% increase in the price of the good leads to a 1.28% increase in quantity supplied. A 1% increase in price causes a 1.28% increase in quantity supplied. So I want to think, finally for these notes, I want to think a little bit about the different values the price elasticity supply that the price elasticity of supply can take. So when the price elasticity of supply equals 1, then supply is said to be unit elastic. So a 1% increase in the price of the good leads to a 1% increase in the quantity supplied of the good. When it is greater than 1, supply is elastic, as it was in the previous example. So a 1% increase in the price of a good leads to a more than 1% increase in quantity supplied. So that's where quantity supplied is very responsive to changes in price. When it's less than 1, supply is inelastic. So a 1% increase in the price of the good leads to a less than 1% increase in quantity supplied. So that's where supply is relatively unresponsive to changes in price. We also have the extremes. When the price elasticity of supply equals 0, then supply is perfectly inelastic. Regardless of what the price is, suppliers are going to supply a certain amount. And this is where the supply curve is vertical. The other extreme is where the price elasticity of supply equals infinity. And supply is perfectly inelastic. So that's where suppliers are only willing to supply at a certain price and nothing more and nothing less. And this is where the supply curve is horizontal. So in the next set of notes, I'm going to show you graphically what this looks like. But again, once you know how to compute one elasticity, you can compute any of them because the formula is the same.